at the end of our 4-day baptism of fire on, on a narrowboat on the Leeds and Liverpool.
We've had our day. We've gotten moored and ate some beans some beans and toast and eggs, and
we just tried to eat everything out of the boat. We haven't managed it.
And then we went to Silsden and walked around and came back.
Well, we figured tonight, when we got an adult beverage or two going, we needed to sit down and, while it's fresh in our minds and while we're still on a boat, list out to ourselves a few of the pros and cons. For those who maybe haven't watched previous videos we've done or other comments or heard other comments that we've made, we're thinking about a permanent move to this lifestyle. We've been following and digesting everything we can about the English Canal narrowboating lifestyle for about 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, and it would be a big change. It really would.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to Silsden Boats.
Silsden Boats in Silsden.
They've been great. They've taught us everything we need to know before we took off. Yep. I'd also recommend, if you're going to try this out, do the Leeds and Liverpool Canal, because it's wide, so there's a lot more room for mistakes if you make any.
Yeah.
And it's fairly easy to navigate. So, but anyway, with that said,
no, Silsden Boats have been great.
Yeah.
Their boats are squeaky clean. There's no complaints upon getting the boat on Tuesday from us. It's got everything you need on board, and
yeah, they've been great.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
So, with that said, let's move on to our list.
So yeah, we made a list of pros and cons.
I guess we'll start with pros first.
Yeah.
You're getting away from the mainstream lifestyle and entering an alternative lifestyle that would hopefully have less stress associated with it. Because, going to your 9-to-5 job every single day, and it can wear on you.
That is a pro. Yeah. And, I mean, to be fair, that's a pro that could be said of whatever alternative lifestyle you're looking at. There are people who do van life, yacht life, RV life.
I can't swim, so yacht life is out.
No, I have
the canals are only like 3 or 4 foot deep. So.
Yeah, no, but I mean, to be fair, yeah, that could apply to any life change you're looking at if you're looking at getting out of the rat race. Right. But specifically for us, it would be to narrowboating. And I'm sorry, I'm losing focus because I've just seen a couple of goldfinches.
Okay, but why narrowboating? Well, for one thing, we have a way over here since Karen's a UK citizen.
I'm basically a dual citizen.
Yeah, so I can immigrate over, and we can pursue this life. But van life, I think, the vans would be too small, just too small.
Van life would be a tough one, especially for a couple. Mm-hmm. I think if you're a single person doing van life or whatever, it would probably be doable.
It'd be fine, yeah.
But for a couple, and especially for a couple who frankly are middle-aged and do enjoy the occasional, creature comfort, having a floaty home that has a lot more modern conveniences is probably a happy medium.
Yeah, you can even get a washing machine in one of these boats.
Yeah.
Not in a van, I don't think.
Nah, I wouldn't think so.
No. So yeah, that's a big pro for us, moving away from the rat race lifestyle.
It's the less stress thing. I mean that's probably paramount to our entire list. If you had to list one thing,
that's it.
It's the less stress. It's leaving, having to work a full-time job in order to have to pay the mortgage, because of which you have to work a full-time job. Right. It's just a self-fulfilling circle at that point.
Let's see. Number 2 would be adventure.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen. This is one of the reasons I really enjoyed storm chasing so much. I never knew where I was going to end up when I was chasing a storm. I might start off in Wichita, Kansas, and end up in somewhere in Missouri, for all I knew. At the end of the day, it'd just be one adventure after another, getting to where you need to go, and finding somewhere to stop for the night. It's just a big adventure. Mm-hmm. And I kind of see that in this lifestyle also, is you might wind up somewhere else you don't think you're going to end up. You just decide, I'll just turn right here and go down this canal instead.
Yeah.
And end up somewhere totally different.
That's
I think
true.
that's great, and you never know. You might encounter trees across the canal.
Storms, which we're looking out the window at a sort of rainstorm out here anyway.
But so yeah, it's just, you never know what's going to be around the next corner, and I quite like that.
I like that too, and I mean the adventure part of this list that you're listing there doesn't just mean that sort of thing either. I mean, you know, I would personally consider adventure, you know, a lot more wide-ranging as well. I mean, you know, just the adventure of being able to live a lifestyle like that, and also be able to do what you want when you want, and take part in whatever activities or hobbies or whatever you want to do to enrich your own life that you never previously had time or energy for.
Exactly,
because you were working.
Exactly.
So.
All right, so I think we can move on to canal, wildlife, and nature.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of it.
There a big draw for us to this sort of lifestyle would be just access to nature, access to wildlife, a lot more. I mean, I've lost count of how much wildlife we've seen.
Just looking out the window and seeing a view like what we have behind us right now. I mean, what we have at our house is a view out a window to other houses. Even though we have 4 acres of land around our house, it's just more houses and a place next door that plays loud music all the time.
Yeah.
So that's not what we seek. We seek peace, solitude, and there's a lot of wildlife and nature in a peaceful surrounding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean that's true.
And that's big for Karen. She loves birds.
Yeah, I have a bird problem. But I mean, you know, it's not just birds. I mean, you know, the in rural parts of England and rural parts of the UK, the wildlife is amazing. I mean, you got badgers,
foxes,
deer, foxes.
Yeah, we saw some deer earlier.
Yeah.
Today.
Yep.
So that was really cool to see.
So that would be a big part for us. I mean, some people may not care about that kind of thing.
But we love wildlife and nature, and I love filming stuff like that. So why not get out here with the wildlife and nature and be a part of it with them instead of living in somewhere that's just kind of humans.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's, you know, it's living in the natural world versus living in a man-made environment. Even
though our house is situated somewhere a bit more rural.
Well, it is. I mean, you know, a lot of people in the States and even in the UK would consider where we live in the States to be a very rural location. But at the end of the day, we are still in a neighborhood surrounded by other houses, even although all those houses have 4 acres.
Yeah.
But it's still other houses, and you're not really out in nature. And I mean, if we live in central Arkansas, I would guess in order to access the type of nature that you see around here, you would probably have to go up to the Buffalo River or something like that.
Yeah, and if you don't like where you are, you can just move the boat.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big plus as well.
That's a huge plus.
Yeah. All right, so now this one has a lot to do with Karen. It's a less temperature extremes in the Britain versus the U.S.
So this is a loaded subject, yeah. And you know, it's only getting worse with climate and the way things are changing and the bizarre climate anomalies that everywhere seems to be experiencing. But I had fondly hoped since moving to the US that I would have acclimated to a large degree.
Well, you have somewhat.
I have to a certain degree, but I think I've accepted that I'm never going to be able to handle the hot temperatures.
Yeah, and it's gotten worse. I mean, we were in triple-digit numbers last year for a large portion of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that we were, and you know, it's when the summers are as hot as they are in Arkansas, or even for a good portion of the U.S. for 9 months of the year, give or take. And I know that sounds loopy to a lot of people who don't live in the States, but it's true that you have 3 months of the year that's really either too cold or wet to do anything, and 9 months of the year that's too hot to do anything. And so you have like zero access to the outside world.
Yeah.
So.
And on the flip side, we've been getting really, really cold in the winters too.
Yeah,
I mean, down to 0 Fahrenheit or -5 at times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really unusual for Arkansas, but it's been happening more and more regularly.
Yeah.
So, and that affects me more so than the hot temperatures. I can't deal with that -5 stuff very well, especially since I work outside.
Not because, I mean, if you have an outside job, it's almost impossible. It's actually physically dangerous.
Yeah, it's...
And not only that, but the silly thing is that, you know, Arkansas is not generally a place that gets that cold routinely. So the houses and the living situation in Arkansas are not geared towards those sort of temperatures. Everyone generally uses heat pumps for
they don't work
for heat, and so we end up having to do a lot of crazy genuflections when we get that cold in the winter to actually keep our house functioning because it's not built for that sort of weather. Yeah, we have to use the heat strips. And here we are talking more about the cold in Arkansas than we are talking about the heat, which is bizarre, but
that's the way it's gone.
It's harder to deal with, almost harder to deal with the cold in Arkansas than it is the heat, because nothing's built to handle it.
You get frozen pipes real easy. Yeah. And, I mean, we had a frozen pipe this past winter that luckily we were home and we were able to get it thawed out before it caused a real problem.
Yeah. But the heat, and I mean, you know, I don't really feel like we've touched on the heat. For a lot of people who are not familiar with Arkansas or the central U.S., the heat and the humidity are an entirely different beast. They're really extreme. I mean, when you factor in the humidity, it's going to make, you know, 100 degrees Fahrenheit feel like 130 degrees Fahrenheit.
Or somewhere thereabouts.
And you're talking about you know, maybe an afternoon high of 100 and an overnight low of 85.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
If you leave a glass of water outside overnight, it will be hot in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's without any insolation from the sun at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally cannot do anything in that weather.
You try.
Oh, I try.
But it's rough for you.
I mean, but you know, the problem is when I try, I sweat so much that I have to take electrolytes, and you know, it's extremely harsh climate. You know, it's very difficult to live in. And yes, you know, I chose to move over there, but you know, we're looking at what's best for our future, and I don't know that living in an extreme climate like that is best for our future.
Yeah, I don't either, to be honest.
So,
all right. So the next one is less materialistic lifestyle.
Yeah, that was actually a pro that I thought of at the last minute.
Yeah,
but I think it deserves to be on there.
It does. It really does. Because you know, if you live in America, you more than likely want to accumulate things, and we have done the same thing.
Yeah,
we've accumulated a lot of stuff.
Well, it's almost compulsory. It's almost automatic, which is the sad thing.
Yeah, and we have 3 cars, 2 of which are hardly ever driven, 2 Mustangs, a good sized house, lots of stuff in that house that doesn't get used that often, to be honest.
Lots of memorabilia. We're big nerds. Lots of sci-fi, video game,
racing stuff.
Memorabilia, racing stuff. I've got more jewelry than I could shake a stick at. You know, more clothes than I could wear.
And I hate to say that, because most people want that and say, "Oh, woe is me," because we're complaining we have too much stuff.
Yeah, people are going to be sitting there listening to us and thinking, "Wow, they're just a couple of jerks."
Yeah.
You know, if you've got too much stuff, quit complaining about it and give it away. Well, yeah, I completely agree with you. But the problem is, you know, you get to a certain point where you do have all these things, and your work life and your personal life are so hectic that you can't actually enjoy any of them. And so they no longer serve any purpose.
Yeah, so you just accumulate this stuff, but you're working so much and so hard to make a decent living that you can't use any of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the point?
Well, I mean, a good analogy for that is the elephant in the room, which is our house that we pay a mortgage on. That we go to work to pay the mortgage, but at a certain point in your life, it feels almost like the roles are reversed, and it feels like your house and your personal property is that you're actually the support system for it.
Well, you are. Yeah, you are.
You know, and you kind of... I have a lot of strong feelings on this subject about how modern lifestyles seem to encourage people gently to get embroiled in all this stuff, in the mortgages and the insurance and, you know, everything else, but they really do. And I mean, that's, you know, mortgages and insurances are not really materialistic, but the materialistic stuff we've really developed, I think, a distaste for.
Yeah, you gotta have a roof over your head.
Oh, absolutely. That's not materialistic.
No, you gotta have a roof over your head. So I've
probably gone a bit off topic there, but
anyway. So now we move on to access to historic villages and structures, and that's where I really like the aspect of this. Is there is so much history here and so many structures that are just so old that I get off on that. I love history. I love historic structures, and I just want to see it all.
Yeah. Well, I think I took a lot of it for granted living in Scotland for the first 22 years of my life. But now that I've spent a good deal of amount of time away from the country, I do feel like I have definitely developed more of an appreciation for it, for the history and for historic structures. I mean, just even for instance, the hike we were on yesterday, walking along those rock walls in the fields above Bradley that keep all the sheep in. You know, it's like just the age of those walls alone.
Oh yeah, and they're still standing, perfect condition.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's amazing, and it's something that, you know, a lot of Brits probably roll their eyes when Americans come over to this, you know, to the UK or whatever.
But we don't have any of that in our country.
No, the States really doesn't, and you kind of miss that.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I love it. It's just amazing to see all this stuff that's probably built 3 centuries ago. Just incredible.
Yeah.
So we're also looking at a more diverse landscape in a smaller area with good public transport here in England.
Yeah, this is kind of a big one, and it's a complicated one as well.
It is.
I mean,
the U.S. has a very diverse landscape.
Yeah, sure it does.
But the country is so huge, it's hard to get to it all.
Yeah, you can't go and see what you want to see in a weekend.
No, you can't go to the Colorado Rockies from Arkansas on a weekend and go and hang out and go back the next day. That's just not the way it works. I mean, and yes, living on a boat it'd be slow to get to these places, but if we really wanted to, take a couple weeks, we could put the boat in a marina, hop a train, and be somewhere else entirely. And
you could.
Yeah, and rent a car even, and just go somewhere in a day and see it. We could go to Aberfeldy, where your family lives, and see it in a day.
Yeah.
So
pretty much.
Yeah, and you can't do that in the U.S. if you live across the country from something you really want to see. You're not going to get there in a day unless you're flying. So
no, you're not. You know, the public transport that's available here. Once you get to know it, and you know timetables and you know where to get the bus or where to get the train, is definitely a big pro, because it means you don't have to own a car, because we have no intention of owning a car if and when we come over.
Yeah, we don't plan on owning a car.
But the diverse landscape for sure is a big one for us in a small area.
Yeah, so. I mean, if you've never seen the hills of Scotland or even the hills here in Yorkshire, area, it's just amazing, just beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
All right, now we move back to the house that we'd already talked about. There's no 1,800 square foot house to care for, and the 4 acres of land to keep up with it. And that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
That 4 acres requires a weekly mowing, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Because we are required by the not a homeowner association, but a covenant to keep the land cut and mowed so that there's no rodents or anything that come around. So that's a big deal. It has to be mowed once a week, usually. Once
a week. It takes about between 3 and 4 hours to do.
Yeah.
And when it's 100 degrees outside, that's a big ask.
Yeah, and Karen's usually the one doing it. So she'll be off work or something, and I'll be home or be at work, and she'll take care of it while I'm at work.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I have more time off than you do, so
yeah.
In general, it's...
I had to lock those doors. They were banging around a little bit.
Outflow.
But anyway, so yeah, the house that would be nice to not have to deal with that anymore.
It would.
I mean, it's nice having the land around us. No doubt about it.
Yeah, but you know, the problem is that you have to have land around you.
Yeah.
In the States, in order to not get driven crazy by your neighbors, because nobody is considerate of anybody else, and most of people's activities actually are disturbing to people like us.
Yeah. So anyway. That would be a big pro, not having to deal with the house or the land anymore. The last pro would be the boating community. Everyone we've met out here has been so freaking nice.
Yeah.
I mean, just everyone says hi, good morning, ask if you need any help with anything.
Yeah.
Help you out with these tough swing bridges.
Yeah, I had at least a couple of guys on Tuesday when we just got the boat. Just help me out with the swing bridges.
Yeah, they're not easy to do.
Yeah, no, I mean, some of them are really tough. And I mean, we haven't done any locks, but I've heard that it's similar if you're doing locks, that frequently people will just...
rock up with a windlass and help you.
Yeah, come give you a hand. And, you know, that sort of community and that sort of community spirit is difficult to find, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, that doesn't exist where we currently live. No, I mean... You get in a car wreck, and some people... I've been in a car wreck where I got run off the road, and everyone just drove on by.
Yeah.
And that's not very nice. Anyway, move on to the cons, and let's take a break. Alright, had to switch drinks there. Let's try out this Black Sheep Ale.
That's a pretty good colloquialism for...
We saw Black Sheep yesterday.
Well, not only that, but our entire life and what we're looking at doing.
Yes.
Becoming the black sheep. The odd ones out.
That's right. That's us. That's always been us, I think.
Wow.
Alright, we're moving on to cons now.
We are.
One of the major cons is the immigration aspect of it and how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
In order to immigrate, the UK has recently tightened down the rules on immigration, and you have to have 112,500 pounds for savings to do it that way.
Yeah, something like
which
that.
is close to $140,000. So yeah, that's a big con.
And it's not like that's a charge. To do it.
You just have to have that in your bank account for 6 months.
You just have to show them that you have the wherewithal, and you must keep it to reassure them that you're not going to become a burden on the state.
I totally understand that. I mean...
Yeah, but it doesn't make it any easier.
No, it doesn't make it any easier.
Especially given the fact that they just recently hiked the rates.
But I think we should be able to make that work in a couple of years' time. So that's the idea anyway. Yeah,
that's what we're looking at, you know. When we pool all our resources, sell the house, sell the cars, sell everything, continue saving and working for a year or two, you know, we will probably be able to. But not only the financial cost of it, but the stress and the complications involved with going through the immigration system are, you know, they're formidable.
Yeah, and I have to answer questions like, who is a big pop star or something?
The life in the UK knowledge test that the UK immigration authorities require people to take who are looking to move into the UK is quite bizarre.
Yeah, in the US you got to learn your US presidents and years for certain things, but history.
Yes.
But over here it's a little bit different.
Yeah, over here they seem to include random questions about pop culture, sports celebrities or sports personalities.
And I am not into pop culture or stick and ball sports.
Yeah, no. So yeah, but I mean, you know, it's not like something that you couldn't surmount by just some repetition of some flashcards.
Yeah, some studying.
You know, but it is something, and you know, it's the stress of having to go to the UK embassy or consulate maybe multiple times for interviews. Yeah. You know, you wouldn't really understand any of this stuff unless you'd been through an immigration system before, but I have.
You have. So.
And let me tell you, none of that stuff's set up to be easy.
No.
But as long as you are someone who can follow a rule or a set of instructions,
get your P's and Q's in order.
Yeah, you're usually going to be okay.
Yeah. And we can do that, I think.
I hope.
Yeah, we can. All right. Well, the next one is the huge change in uprooting ourselves from our existing lifestyle and moving over here in with Karen's probably dad or something at first until we find a boat.
I would imagine my dad and my dad's property house would probably be our landing zone for some time. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a pro and a con. You know, it's exciting that you can look to do something like this, but it's also a con because, let's face it, humans are creatures of habit. No one really wants to chuck everything away, uproot everything, and leave.
Some people do.
Except people who do.
Yeah.
Like us.
Like us.
So
yeah, it's a big change, and it can be a bit nerve-wracking, but I think at the end of the day, if it's worthwhile doing, it's worthwhile doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we're at. And I'm all up for it.
Well, not only that, but you don't just have to ask yourself the question of should we do this, but you also, I mean, maybe we're a bit too existential for our own good, but you also have to sit there and ask yourself the question that if we don't do this,
when will we do this?
Well, not just when, but if we don't ever do this, will we regret it forever?
Or
and
if we ever do it,
Yeah, will we, for the rest of our lives, sit and think, boy, I wonder how things would have worked out if we'd done that?
Still be working our butts away at
age
60, 70 years old and thinking, boy, I wish I'd done that.
Yeah.
Don't want to be there. Don't want to be in that boat. I want to be in a boat like this.
Yeah, there's certain boats that are worth being in and certain boats that are not worth being
in.
in.
And that goes hand in hand of making a big change like this during middle age.
Yeah. Yeah, we're in our mid-40s.
Yeah.
No bones about it.
Well, I'm in my late 40s.
Well, I was being bashful on your behalf.
No need to be bashful. I am who I am. But yeah, you know, we're almost 50 years old.
Yeah, we're not in our early 20s.
No, and, you know, it's easier to do this kind of thing when you are younger, even though you'd never have the money to do something like this.
Yeah.
So, but now we do have potentially the money to do this. And, you know, it's like, oh, should we or should we not?
Yeah. And I mean, there are plenty of people in life who have faced those questions, you know, and made those changes and have overcome adversity to reshape their lives into something that they want them to be.
And more positive.
Yeah. And, you know, there are more than likely multiple people who have tried and failed.
And, yeah, we don't want to be the second group.
No, we don't.
So, let's see what happens with that. I think it'll be fine, though. The next set is future canal upkeep, with the recent cuts of the Canal and River Trust's funding from the government. So, recently, the Canal and River Trust was set up to be a fund, a charity.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're supposed to be off the government's payroll within a certain amount of time. And that really has never happened. But the government has decided it's going to start cutting funding, as agreed to, when this is all set up. So the CRT, or the Canal and River Trust, has started implementing higher fees for your boat licenses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll make up for the shortfall. They think it will.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell from what they say.
But, you know, the Canal and River Trust, for those who don't know, are responsible for the upkeep of the entire canal system.
Lots, the canals...
Canals, swing bridges,
and there's already swing bridges and lots that need work that haven't been done.
Yeah, and not only that, but the towpaths.
The towpaths as well, yeah.
Which are as important to the canals as, almost as important as the canals are.
Yeah, you gotta have somewhere to moor your boat.
Yeah, I mean, without upkeep and towpath maintenance, everything falls into disrepair. You have nowhere to moor.
Yeah, we just ran across a bank yesterday that had slipped into the canal. Another boat that had been hired through Silsden had gotten grounded there.
Actually, it was 2 days ago.
Was it 2 days ago?
That was when we turned around near Gargrave.
Okay. Yeah, so 2 days ago. But it got grounded because the bank had slipped and no one did anything about it yet.
Props to the Silsden Boats guys, once again, who probably get who knows how many phone calls, and it wasn't until we got close to the guy who was doing a, you know, 3-point
we didn't know what they were doing
in the middle of the canal. It wasn't until we got closer we found out it was the employees from Silsden Boats who had just got done pulling one of their other boats, their other customers' boats, off of
and then came around and pushed our boat away from the bank.
And then came around and helped us avoid
getting
stuck where the other ones had gotten stuck at. So
anyway,
props to them.
The future upkeep of the canal is a worry.
That's a worry, yeah.
It is a real worry.
The guys at Silsden Boats reckon that if more cash is not injected or the cuts, continue, that maybe 5 or 6 years, things might...
Now, we're going to be here, or we're going to be in the States for at least a couple more years. Mm-hmm. So, we'll be able to keep an eye on what's going on with the canals, and if the upkeep is remaining where it's at or dropping further.
Yep.
And that'll be an important part of our decision at the end of the day.
It will be.
So...
I mean, who wants to move somewhere where things are just going into total disrepair?
Yeah, you don't want to end up on a canal where there's a breach and all the water drains out and your boat's stuck.
Yeah.
That's not, that's not what we want to do.
No, not at all.
So, alright, now we move on to the inability to get anywhere in a hurry if needed.
That's a biggie, and we were trying to think of, as we went down the list, from sort of broad points to more canal-centric points. And this is a canal-centric point.
It is, yeah. Because if, let's say something happens and we need to be somewhere in a hurry, these boats don't move fast.
No. And I think I've personally really come to appreciate that even more obviously during this trip, because, you want to talk about how far we cruised over 4 days.
Not very far.
Not very far at all.
We could have gone farther.
Well, sure.
But not a whole lot farther.
No, not really.
We took a day off, a leisure day. That day we could have used for more cruising, but...
And driven ourselves back.
Yeah, the point of this is not to make it into a rat race lifestyle. So, we decided to treat it more like how we would if we were actually on the boat.
Yeah.
But the fact remains that if something happens and we need to be somewhere in a hurry, it's going to take some time. We got to get the boat in a marina, possibly get a jet somewhere, or get a train somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, connecting to major arteries to get on a plane or a train or a bus or hire a car or whatever, it's going to take a minute.
Yeah, and we would not be based in a marina. We'd be continuous cruising. And for those who don't know, a continuous cruiser lifestyle is you're always moving along the canal network. You can stay in a place, for a couple of weeks, but you got to move on after that. And that's what we'd be doing. We wouldn't be staying in a marina where we could get a taxi to us or whatever. So yeah, it's gonna be different if something happens, and we can't get there in a hurry. And that's part of it, though.
Yeah, I mean it is. There's no way around that. But that's part and parcel of living amongst nature, having a slower life, an alternative life, being off grid, if you want to put it in those terms.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, it's not that you couldn't maybe plan to be around a populated center at a certain time of the year or something.
Yeah, but when you have to be somewhere in a hurry, it's never planned. Well,
no, that's true.
That's never planned.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just gonna be difficult if that ever comes up, and it might. Another con would be a lack of creature comforts and utilities.
This is a fun one.
Like we don't have a gas pipe hooked up to the boat. We don't have a water pipe hooked up to the boat. We don't have a sewer pipe hooked up to the boat. We have to do all that ourselves. So whether you have something like a pump out toilet, where you go into a marina and pay to have it pumped out, or you have a cassette toilet where you go and empty it into an Elson yourself, you do everything yourself. You generate your own electricity. You get your own water from the provided water points. You get rid of your waste at the provided points. And everything's done by you. You are a more self-sufficient lifestyle.
Much more. There's much more responsibility on you yourself as a boater. You are your own bin man. You are your own water treatment facility.
Yeah.
You are your own, grocery getter, but that's the same no matter where you live, but unless
you pay for DoorDash or something.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely a lack of creature comforts could be considered a con to a lot of people.
Yeah, most people would not get on with it, I don't think.
I don't think they would either. It's an awful lot of work.
Yeah.
I'm sure once you transitioned to the lifestyle and had some time and opportunity, I'm sure you would probably devise a system and get it down
Well,
pretty
we kind of did that yesterday, or the day before, when we went and got water at Skipton.
Mm-hmm.
While we were filling up with water, you can stay there for an hour to fill up with water. While we were doing that, Karen ran to the grocery store and grabbed some groceries that we needed. Yeah. And that's just the kind of thing you have to do to work this out and make it work for you. And, you know, if you can't deal with your own waste, then you don't want this lifestyle. And I can. I'm not that worried about it.
Well, so. the toilet subject is a big inside joke amongst boaters. The conversation usually turns to toilets after a while and what system's better. But in general, the toilet situation is underpinned by two systems. It's either a pump out or a cassette. Yeah. There are a couple of other options that may or may not
they're not really feasible, though.
The composting and the incinerator.
Yeah, it's not really feasible.
It's not really feasible.
But
so.
I also want to throw in here, we're not experienced boaters at all. This is our first time on a boat these past 4 days. Yep. So we're just speaking from what we've learned so far. Yep. So don't take what we say as gospel by any stretch of the imagination. So, with that said, you got to worry about boat upkeep and maintenance also. Because a lot of the stuff in a boat is built for the boats, and it's very specialized. Yeah. So if you need a new 12-volt fridge, well, it's not quite as easy as going to the Home Depot. You can't even get a fridge at Home Depot anymore. They don't keep them in stock anymore. Yeah. It's not as easy as going to your local appliance store and grabbing a fridge and bringing it to your house. You have to find the specialized store that carries something like a 12-volt fridge or even a small fridge, and you will pay more for it as well. Even though it's less capacity and probably not as good, you're going to pay more for it. Yep. So that's and with the upkeep, you have to take the boat out of the water every 2 or 3 years, do the blacking, make sure the hull's in good shape. So
yeah, boat maintenance is definitely it's a downside, but then again, you know, to be fair, you could say, well, a downside to living in a house is you have house maintenance.
You have the roof replaced.
Your roof or your siding, or you need the house painted.
And it costs a whole heck of a lot more to have a roof replaced and to have the boat taken out of the water and have it blacked.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you know, I swithered about whether to include boat maintenance on that list. I feel like you have to, because it can be a bit involved, and like you so rightly said, everything's very specialized. Yeah. But it is true that, you know, whether you have a house or a van or a yacht or a caravan or a tent or a boat, you know, it's gonna need upkeep.
Everything does. Nothing lasts forever without being maintained. No. And I'm lucky that I know how to maintain stuff and I know how to fix stuff.
I'm lucky that you know how to maintain stuff and fix stuff.
Well, so that's not down. We got that taken care of. So. There's also on a boat a much, much smaller space. Mm-hmm. We currently live in an 1,800 square foot house. This boat is 50 foot by about 7 foot wide. Yeah. So that's 350 square feet on this boat.
Oh, you did the numbers?
Well, that's just multiplication. It's just math.
Well, I don't do numbers.
With most of it taken up by countertops, beds, seating, ovens. Yeah. So you just have a little space to move through. Yeah. But I'm alright with that.
Yeah, I mean, whether it bothers you or not, you know, it's a hard call. I mean, it's different. I think it's only bothersome when you have more than one person who's trying to access a small area.
Yeah, and one has to move out of the way to let everyone by.
But that's pretty frivolous at the end of the day.
Yeah, we're not gonna get mad at each other because one won't move out of the way or someone's not getting out of the way fast enough. Big deal, whatever.
I would hope not, but
and there's a lot less cleaning to do on a boat too.
A lot less cleaning.
As far as, you know, compared to a big house. Yeah. You know, you're gonna have
the space issue is an issue, but you know, we would be actively shopping for used boats if we were shopping for boats. And we would hope to have the ability to pick a boat that seems like it might work best for us.
Right.
And to be honest, this 4 days on this boat's probably taught us a lot about what would work or what we would prefer versus what we wouldn't. Like, for instance, the bathroom in this boat is a
corridor,
self-contained off-corridor bathroom.
Right.
And I think
you
wanted that, and I was just kind of like, you know. But after being on this boat,
I've changed my mind. I like a walk-through bathroom much better. It has a lot more space for a bathroom. So that's what we'd be going for,
well,
I think.
And the thing about it is, if you have a bathroom that's self-contained itself off a hallway, the hallway is really wasted space, technically.
Well, yeah, you also have to kind of squeeze through there, turn sideways.
Yeah.
To go through there.
Yeah.
So.
But you know, a self-contained bathroom kind of makes it forces you to carve out a tiny little hallway, which in itself is useless or
and a tiny
purposeless.
Little bathroom.
And it also makes your bathroom small. So
yeah.
I think we've learned that for sure, which
Definitely.
is a valuable thing to learn. Yeah, so that's interesting.
Oh, the wind's picking up out there.
Yeah, we're getting some gusts.
We have a little storm out there passing by.
It's trying to come over the hills towards us. So
yeah.
If
maybe it'll get here.
If it starts pelting out on the window, you'll know what's going on.
So with that much smaller space, you of course live with a lot less.
Yeah.
And most people want to acquire stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas we're looking to get rid of stuff. And I think we're okay with living with less. I'd be okay with what we have on this boat right now.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, the funny thing is that the clothes that we have brought in our 2 suitcases on this trip may be more clothing than we would even keep in a boat if we were living on the boat.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that for a fact, but I suspect that might be the case.
It might be.
But it does force you to live with less. Whether that's a pro or a con depends on your outlook, I suppose.
It does.
But, you know, I think it would also force you to appreciate what you have
exactly.
a lot more.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree.
That's a double-edged kind of point there.
I totally agree.
But, you know, I mean, like, I would much rather have 1 or 2, ornaments or personal, affects that are sentimental value than I would have a house full of, nonsense that we barely ever look at, let alone use.
Yeah, along with a much more fulfilling life.
Yeah.
We would hope.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
Yeah.
And the very last con is that boaters can be viewed as gypsies, and they have a hard time finding services sometimes, like medical help. Like, sometimes boaters have a hard time getting into a doctor because they don't have a fixed address.
That's a big one to leave towards the end of the list. I just thought of that actually towards the end of our brainstorming session. Mm-hmm. But it is a big one. And, yeah, we don't have any concept of what sort of difficult... I mean, we have some idea of the difficulties you might face, but we've heard conflicting stories.
Yeah, some people say no problem whatsoever.
Some people have said that the medical system over in the UK is great and there's no problem accessing care even if you're a boater.
Yeah.
And other people have said you're going to have a really hard time accessing care or finding a GP that will take you on because you have no permanent
Now, I think we
address.
should say England instead of the UK, since Scotland and Wales have their own healthcare systems.
Well, sure, yeah.
So I think
English NHS.
Yeah, the English NHS. I think it's probably much better than Scotland and Wales.
Seems to be.
Seems to be. I don't know that for a fact, but it seems to be. But yeah, I mean, if one of us were to have an emergency, I don't think it'd be a problem to get in to the hospital. You just call 999, get an ambulance, carry to the ER. Mm-hmm. But the problem comes with accessing a GP.
Yeah.
And getting in with a doctor for something a bit more minor than an emergency.
Yeah. Or, if one of you has prescriptions that, have to occur on a monthly or 3 monthly basis or something like that, you would obviously have to get that set up when you start the lifestyle and make sure that, maybe through telemed or virtual appointments that you're able to keep that up.
Right.
So
yeah. But, that's something we'd have to be willing to compromise on if it really is an issue. So
yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, I'm probably the one, being the female, that requires more medical intervention or medical services and checkups on a yearly or biannual basis and that kind of thing. I do have certain prescriptions that I rely on a monthly basis, so yeah. But then again, I'm also the UK citizen,
right?
So would it really be that much of an issue?
Well,
I honestly
but
don't
you
know.
don't have a fixed permanent address.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, even obtaining or establishing a bank account is apparently a rigmarole.
Yeah.
If you don't have a history or lots of paperwork proving that you've lived here for many years. So
we'll see how that goes. Yeah. But right now, I think the pros to moving over here and moving onto a boat outweigh the cons, in my opinion.
I think they do. Depending on, I mean, it depends what's important to you. But
what's important to us, I think, is just having a much more fulfilling life and not just working our lives away all day long.
Yeah. I mean, what's important to us is getting out of the treadmill of getting up, driving to work half asleep, doing your work, your day's work, coming home and looking forward to a cup of tea and an hour and a half of YouTube before
and go to bed.
Going to bed. That's our life. There's no involvement with outdoors. There's no involvement with nature.
Unless it's on the weekend, maybe one day on a weekend.
Yeah. Well, even your weekends are jam-packed with stuff that you have to take care of for your own life because you're at work 5 days a week. And I know that this is the perennial problem that every single human being has.
Well, at least, definitely.
But the fact remains that it's hard when you work 5 days a week, and especially as you get older. It's not as easy to take care of everything you want to take care of in 48 hours on a Saturday and a Sunday.
Yeah, and we don't have any kids. We're not looking to leave something to our kids later on, or grandkids, or whatever.
Yeah, like a house. Or...
Yeah, we're not looking to do that.
Yeah.
So, it's like, why are we doing this when we can pursue something different?
Yeah.
So anyway, let us know what you think down in the comments below.
I would really like anybody who watches this and has a vested interest in either midlife crises or narrowboating.
Yeah.
I would really like to hear from some of them.
Tell us what you think. Tell us what you think. I mean, are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the wrong thing?
Are we suffering from the quintessential midlife crisis and you're just sitting there rolling your eyes at us?
You might be. But yeah, just leave your comment down below.
Yeah.
We might listen to you, we might not.
Yeah. You might bring up a point that we hadn't thought of
that'll
make us
change our minds. Anyway. All right.
Well, thanks for listening to our ramblings.
Yeah.
We better quit this before we're more than 2 drinks in. And I'm getting very uneasy about this dark shower that's coming over the hills of the Yorkshire.
We're batten down the hatches.
Yeah,
dear.
I think you already did, but... Yep.
All right.
Anyway,
y'all take it easy. We'll see you next time.
That's our 2 cents for now.
All right.
All right. Catch you later.